चैनल पर हमारी एक सीरीज जिसका नाम है युद्ध महाभीषण होगा। आप सबके सहयोग के हम आभारी हैं। जिस तरह आपने उस सीरीज को समर्थन दिया है, सहयोग दिया है, उसी प्रकार हमारी दूसरी सीरीज डायलॉग विद वेटरन्स, जिसमें हम तीनों सेनाओं के उन सेना नायकों से बातें कर रहे हैं जिन्होंने एक मुकाम हासिल किया, और उन्हीं से हम सीखेंगे, जानेंगे कि देश और समाज के लिए हमें क्या क्या करना चाहिए। हमारी तीसरी सीरीज बातें जनगण मन से। इस सीरीज का पहला एपिसोड पहले शनिवार यानी 7 जनवरी 2023 से शुरू होने जा रहा है। आपके समर्थन की पूरी उम्मीद रखते हैं और मैं आशा करता हूं कि आपका आशीर्वाद बना रहेगा। हर रह गुजर पे शम्मा जलाना है मेरा काम, तेवर है क्या हवा के ये मैं जानता नहीं। IAF, इंडियन एयरफोर्स, नाम सुनते ही हमें ऐसा लगता है कि सिर्फ एयरफोर्स में फाइटर पायलट ही होते हैं। जनाब, एयरफोर्स में ट्रांसपोर्ट एयरक्राफ्ट भी होते हैं जो एक बहुत अहम रोल अदा करते हैं। जानेंगे बहुत सी बातें और जानेंगे आज के एपिसोड में 1971 की वॉर के किस्से भी। आज हमारे साथ हमारे स्टूडियो में मौजूद हैं विंग कमांडर चंद्रशेखर।
आज भारत की बात सुनाताओं के मन से मैं विंग कमांडर चंद्रशेखर का अभिवादन करता हूं। बहुत बहुत स्वागत सर आपका। और विंग कमांडर चंद्रशेखर से मैं जानना चाहूंगा कि एयरफोर्स ज्वाइन करने के लिए व्हाट वाज योर मोटिवेशन।
पहले मैं आपको धन्यवाद बोलना चाहता हूं फॉर गिविंग मी दिस अपॉर्चुनिटी टू शेयर माय एक्सपीरियंसेस इन द एयरफोर्स एंड माय रिटायरमेंट लाइफ एक्सपीरियंसेस। थैंक यू सर। Actually, I wanted to fly right from my childhood because it happened that my house was right on the approach path of Meenambakkam airfield, and every aircraft used to go over my house. और जब भी आवाज का आवाज सुनता हूँ मैं, जाओ भाग दौड़कर मैं देखता हूँ, जाओ पर मैं चाइल्डहुड भाग दौड़ देखता हूँ, हाँ आवाज जरा उसका अंदर पायलट कैसा बैठेगा, उधर कैसा चलाएगा। So it was always in my mind that one day or other I should be sitting in that cockpit and fly an aircraft. That was my motivation to enter into Air Force. But what actually happened is, at that time we can never even think of entering Air Force in those days. I'm talking about 1960s. And I did my engineering in mechanical and completed my mechanical engineering course. I was just 19-year-old boy at that time. And you know what is the हर युवक को हिंदुस्तान में 19 साल में कोर्स खत्म होने के बाद क्या लक्ष्य होता है? अच्छा काम चाहिए, अच्छा नौकरी चाहिए और अच्छा कमाई करना है।
Very true, very true. Exactly.
That was the aim at that time. So in the same way, I also applied for so many places. And one day I saw in the newspaper एक advertisement था, भारतीय वायुसेना के लिए पायलट ट्रेनी चाहिए। So मैंने सोचा ठीक है यार, मैं भी अप्लाई करूंगा उसको। So मैंने वो भारतीय वायुसेना के लिए एप्लीकेशन भी डाल दिया। एक्चुअली माय फ्रेंड्स और बाकी लोगों को मजाक उड़ा रहे थे, अच्छा तुम पायलट बनना चाहते हो तुम, वाह वाह वाह, यही बोल रहे थे उस वक्त। इमेजिन इट वाज इन 1962-63, so that was the thing. And I was in Chennai at that time. And okay, after some time, I suddenly one day I received a letter to come for interview for Air Force pilot training. I couldn't believe my eyes. I said, फिर भी ठीक है यार, मिल गया है, जाकर ये फ्री ट्रेन चार्ज दे रहा है, जाकर हमने इंटरव्यू कर वापस आएंगे। सो इंटरव्यू बैंगलोर में था, मैं सोचा बैंगलोर भी देख लेंगे। सो दैट वाज माय आइडिया। आई वेंट फॉर द इंटरव्यू फॉर द पायलट कोर्स And surprisingly, out of 40 people, candidates who came for the interview, 3 were selected and I was one of them. मैंने कहा अरे बाबा ये क्या हो रहा है? Select हो गई. But then we were sent to IAM, Institute of Aviation Medicine, where I have to undergo medical test. And the medical test for pilots was very, very tough. It was not an easy thing to pass through. We have to undergo pressure chamber test, we have to undergo the gyros test and all those things. So ठीक है, वो भी हो गया. मैंने कहा देखा जाएगा क्या होगा है. After 4 days of medical test, when they announced the result, called and announced the result, I was surprised. The other 2 were medically unfit. And I was the only person who was selected.
Wow.
So I said, okay, I came home. At that time, they didn't say you were selected. They only said you are medically fit. So I had no knowledge at that time whether what does it mean, whether medically fit or not, because they did not say, they called individual people and they are medically unfit, but I was not aware of it. So anyway, I came back home. After about a month or so, I was searching for a job and all. And one day I received a letter that I have been selected as a engineer in escorts Faridabad. They were starting their tractor division at that time, and I got a job as a mechanical engineer in the Faridabad tractor division. I was very happy. So I said, and next day I received another letter. You have been selected as a pilot trainee in the Indian Air Force, and you have to join within 4 days.
सो सर जब आपको दोनों लेटर मिला जॉब का, एक तो फरीदाबाद एस्कॉर्ट्स का ट्रैक्टर डिवीजन एंड सेकंड एयरफोर्स में, सो आपके लिए कौन सा सिलेक्शन कौन सा इंपॉर्टेंट था?
सर ये क्वेश्चन पूछने का जरूरत ही नहीं है. I was already an NCC cadet. I passed a C certificate in NCC senior division.
Right.
So after staying, after having training in NCC for 3 years, passing C certification in NCC, is there any other thing which I can think of? Air Force is the only choice, and that's the one and only choice. And this thing actually was not that easy to get. Also, you all aware that how difficult it was to get in.
So family में भी सब parents agreed.
I wanted to say about this. So when in the evening when my father came back from office, I was jumping with joy, showing him that letter that I have been selected as a pilot trainee in the Indian Air Force, Daddy. He said, yesterday you got a letter from Faridabad also. I said, yes. He said, go and join there. I said, what? He said, what do you think of yourself? You want to go? आप क्या पायलट बनना चाहते हो अभी? ये हमारा घर है, हमारा फैमिली है. ये तो तुम पायलट बनना चाहते हो तो फैमिली को क्या होगा? नहीं, और हमारा खानदान में कोई भी फौज में नहीं है. कोई भी नहीं है. So why do you want to join army now? No, you are not going any Air Force. You are not going anywhere. You just go and join, be a mechanical engineer. मैंने बहुत कन्विंस किया. मैंने कहा नहीं होगा. My mother objected. My father objected. My relatives objected. वो relatives भी वैसी है, या मामा चाची चाचा सब है. इसी के लिए है जो अच्छा करना है उसको बोलना नहीं करना इसके लिए है. वो भी आकर फादर को चाबी दे दिया. तुम पागल हो, तुम उसको बेटा को तुम फ्लाइंग में बोल रहे हो, कल वो एक्सीडेंट क्रैश में मर जाएगा तो तुम फैमिली को क्या होगा? नहीं, यू शुड नॉट सेंड इट. सो मैंने तो 4 दिन मिला, 2 दिन हो गया ऐसी. मुझे तो पता नहीं क्या करूं मैं. सो फाइनली आई टोल्ड माय डैडी, देखो मैं जब भी स्कूल में पढ़ रहे थे, जब भी मेरा मैथ्स में फेल हो गया, टीचर यूज्ड टू से शो दिस टू योर फादर एंड गेट योर सिग्नेचर. फादर का सिग्नेचर चाहिए. उसी एज से मैं आपका सिग्नेचर में लगा रहा हूं मैं. ओके, सो इवन नाउ I can put your signature because indemnity bond. Air Force is very particular. When I am going as a pilot trainee, parents have to sign an indemnity bond, which is very, very important, without which you cannot join the Indian Air Force in the flying branch. So he was not signing. So I told him, since I know how to make your signature, I will sign as your signature and I will run away from the house and join the Air Force. Day after tomorrow, if you are not giving me permission, I am going to join Air Force on my own, without your permission.
So फादर, मैंने सुना कि अब पता चला कि आपके फादर जो हैं उस समय ये डिसाइड करने के लिए कि भाई वाकई में ही मेरा बेटा जो है वो एयरफोर्स में जाएगा। सो मेरे को पता चला था कि आपकी वो कुंडली लेकर ज्योतिषियों के पास घूमे।
तो मैं क्या बोलूं इसके बारे में। Then I think for the whole night he must, you see, after all, parents are parents.
Right.
They have their interest on their children's life. I cannot blame them. What my father and mother were telling, to certain extent from their position, it is correct. I won't say they were wrong on that. So he might have thought for the whole night, since this boy wanted to go and join in the Air Force, and that too as in the pilot training. So let me think about it, let me leave it to the God. So next day, he just took my kundali, my horoscope, to 5 great astrologers in Chennai.
Okay.
And he showed the kundali to the astrologer without telling them anything. Whose kundali is that and why he is asking or anything. He just told the astrologer, please check and let me know what is the lifeline for this horoscope owner. How long is his life on this earth? And without exception, all 5 astrologers said, इस कुंडली वाला का लाइफलाइन है 80 साल से ऊपर. I am 79 now. Okay, so he says 80 साल से ऊपर है, इनका लाइफलाइन बहुत strong है. You don't have to worry about his life. My father came home. He said, "Get me the papers," and he signed the alternative. And then he made all preparations for me because a lot of things were required.
Right.
First time I'm going out of our house and they don't know much Hindi. What do you know much Hindi? I don't know Hindi. And going and joining Air Force and all. Of course the parents were also worried. That is how I joined and became a pilot trainee in Indian Air Force.
That's great. चंद्रशेखर, ये आपकी बचपन की एक आकांक्षा थी एयरफोर्स ज्वाइन करना, और आपने किसी न किसी ढंग से पिताजी को मना के, पेरेंट्स को मना के एयरफोर्स ज्वाइन कर लिया. आज जब when you look back on your service career, do you think what purpose you had and what motivation you had, it fulfilled your dream?
Absolutely yes, is my reply for this question. Whatever I want to do, because right from childhood, I was sort of, you can say, patriot. Even in the school, in those days, you can imagine, immediately after the independence in 50s and all, when I was in school, we used to celebrate the Republic Day and Independence Day, and all chote nane mune bache, we used to go on a procession around the village, and there used to be one boy who will be shouting, Bharat Mata ki Jai, Hindustan ki Jai, Mahatma Gandhi ki Jai, and things like that. And that boy always used to be myself. And so this kind of motivation was in my blood right from the beginning, that I want to serve the country. And one more thing, one of my uncles was himself a freedom fighter, and in fact 2 of my uncles, one big one and the other one is the younger one, both were freedom fighters, and one was actually in Nehruji's cabinet as an MP.
Okay. Oh, great. And how your career shaped up, and what was the main thing where you feel great that you led some operations, or you have been a part of some operations with a sense of pride you can tell us?
Okay, sir. Before I go straight away into operations of the squadron, I would like to say something about my training and my initial stage in different squadrons. I started my pilot training and all, and halfway through I changed my branch into navigator branch. So it is known as flying branch. In those days it was known as general duties, GDP and GDN, general duties pilots and general duty navigator. There's absolutely no difference in their paid allowances or postings and things like that. So I became a GDN, and the navigators are always posted initially to transport squadron. So actually, when the pilot, the trainees complete their training, they are sent into 3 streams depending upon their flying ability, their attitude, their motivation, etc. There is known as fighter stream, then it's a transport stream, then it is a helicopter stream, and of course the navigators are permanently going into the nav stream. So I entered into the nav stream, and I was posted to the first squadron, which was known as 42 Squadron, flying the IL-14s. It was an Ilyushin 14 aircraft. It was a Russian-made aircraft. It's a twin piston engine aircraft, propellered aircraft, and a medium size aircraft. छोटी है, बहुत बड़ी नहीं है.
Still
It
in
was-
Air Force?
Sorry?
Still in Air Force?
No sir, no sir. They are all number plated,
Okay.
and what we call it, they are all in graveyard.
Okay.
So, so it was like that. The IL-14 also have gone. But at that time, they were the aircraft which were flying. So I completed my training in 1965. I became a commissioned officer in 1965 in the flying branch, and then Air Chief Marshal Arjun Singh gave me what we call wings and rings. Ring as a commissioned officer, wings as a flying branch. So it was in 1965, and then I was posted to 42 Squadron IL-14, which was based in Palam. As I said, it was a medium type aircraft, but it gave me a lot of experience in flying all over India. It was mainly used for RTR, route transport rule. So we were flying route, you can say, all over from Delhi. It was based in Delhi, and it gave me a lot of experience in flying. And in fact, I was very lucky, one of those very lucky persons who could even fly this aircraft right up to Moscow when I was just 23-year-old. I was just a flying officer. And I flew this IL-14 aircraft from Delhi to Moscow, and you'll be surprised, I landed in Lahore also.
Okay.
My routing was Lahore, Kabul, Tashkent, Moscow.
Okay.
That was my routing at that time, and I landed in Lahore and then took off, because any Air Force or military aircraft flying over another country, you have to make a landing there. So that was the ruling. So we have to touch down, just refuel and get a clearance and take off again. So it gave me all practice and everything over there. And at that time, Palam, our squadron was in front of a taxi truck. And his AN-12s used to land and taxi and go to tarmac. Whenever I see this AN-12 aircraft, I used to rush, come out of the crew room and see the aircraft. Oh, what a big aircraft. My God, will I ever be able to be inside that cockpit? Will I ever be able to sit in that? And by God's grace, that date also came in 1971.
Okay.
So in 1971, I was posted to 25 Squadron initially. For AN-12, 25, 44, both were AN-12 squadrons based at Chandigarh.
Right.
So I was posted to AN-12 Squadron in 25 Squadron first, which was both were doing air maintenance as well as RTR, that is route support services.
Okay, sir. Veterans Chandra Shekhar, what was the role of your squadron during peacetime and wartime?
Okay, I was posted to AN-12, which is a big airlift squadron at that time, and in the Indian Air Force, AN-12 was the biggest, fastest and high-flying transport aircraft available in India at that time. So I started my conversion over there, and I can tell you one thing, on the very first day when I was detailed for a familiarization sortie, that means get into the aircraft, get yourself familiarized for flying. So my very first sortie, when I sat inside the AN-12 cockpit, I cannot express how I felt. That was my dream come true. I wanted to fly that aircraft, and today I am inside that aircraft. That was the thing, and the nav sits right inside the nose in a glass bubble. He is the one who has got a complete view outside from this end of the horizon to other end of the horizon, because the pilot sits in first floor. He is above me, and I am right inside because of the very fact this aircraft is basically used, and our role of the squadron was also mainly air maintenance sorties. I want to tell you what is air maintenance sorties. Our troops are all over in the border area, right from Srinagar right up to Assam over there, and their situation, there are difficult places. There are some places there are roads, and some places there are mule tracks, and in some places nothing. They're just brought by helicopter and picked up by helicopter. So that is the kind, and you know the altitude, you know the temperature, climate condition. It's very, very difficult for them. So the AN-12 squadron was given basically an air maintenance role apart from the transport support role. I'll come to transport support role a little later. Air maintenance sortie in Chandigarh, the aircraft is loaded. There are three types of load. One is the drop load, other one is the passenger sortie. So we take off And first I will tell you about the passenger sortie. Passenger means the troops in and out of Leh, because AN-12 can land only in Leh at that time. Though we had other two airfields like Fukche and Toys operational, where C-119 packet aircraft were operating. Those aircrafts can land and take off from there, but AN-12 can't take off in Toys and the Fukche. I am talking about 70s. In those days, the runway was absolutely mud, sand runway, ALG we call it, Advanced Landing Ground. Whereas Leh was a concrete runway, though it was also a very difficult runway. And I want to tell you one thing, Leh was the highest militarily operational airfield in the world. The elevation of the Leh at that time was, the elevation was 10,300 feet. And that obviously at that height, you need a longer runway for the aircraft to take off, because it has to pick up speed. To pick up speed, you need more runway. So, whereas Leh itself is a mountainous area, to get a long plain surface for runway was very difficult. Somehow we have got it, and that Leh runway we used to land and leave the passengers there. And the other soldiers who were coming to planes from all forward areas and other units will come to Leh on their own or some other means, and from there we will pick up and bring them at Toys, to Chandigarh. And you can say when these Tibetans go from the Leh to, from Chandigarh to Leh, they go by walk, taking their yak, that buffalo type of animal,
Right.
loading equipment, their materials and everything from planes to Leh, and they take about a month to reach Leh.
Oh.
And AN-12 takes 42 minutes from Chandigarh to Leh. So you can imagine the type of transportation facility which we were giving air maintenance sortie to Leh. So this is for the passenger sortie. And now we come to the drop sorties. Now there are a lot of places other than outside Leh which is difficult to reach. And even some places have a road and some places, as I said, do not have road. So how to reach items over there quick and safe? So they have got DZ, what we call dropping zone. So there are drop load fitted into the aircraft, and the AN-12 goes over the DZ, drops the load and comes back. It was a very, very tricky operation, but very severe and a very tough training is given, and lot of screening sorties are done before the pilot becomes fully eligible to do all these sorties either in Leh landing or in drop sorties. In drop sorties also you have two types of drops. One is the free drop, other one is the para drop. In free drop, they are just put it in what we call a 10 feet by 10 feet skid board. It's a wooden plywood board, just like potatoes and onions and fuel cans and things like that are all put on that and just tied, and from the AN-12 we just push it out and they just go and drop on the ground. Para drop is done for those items which are fragile, which are very delicate, which might break on landing. So the same skid board they are tied, but on four corners it is tied to parachute. Sometimes if the load is heavy, 2 parachutes, 3 parachutes are tied to one skid board. And then when we pushed it again, because the drop procedure is same, I will come to that also. When we push it out, then to the para rip cord, and as the parachute, as the load leaves the aircraft, the rip cord automatically is pulled and the parachute opens, because parachute cannot open inside the aircraft. It has to go well beyond the safety area of aircraft and then it should open. That is how it opens and then it drops. But this is also a very, very difficult job, and the navigator is a person who conducts this entire drop right from beginning till end for the drop sorties, because he is the one person who can see from left to right and also see the D is a dropping zone right in front of him.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
जब हम ड्रॉपिंग करते हैं दैट टाइम पे वो एक्यूरेसी कैसे आता है कि वो राइट प्लेस पर ही जाके ड्रॉप होता है?
हाँ सर, this is a very good question but difficult to answer. Okay, we fly at a certain height,
Yes.
and we drop from there. And Himalayas is a treacherous mountain. Nobody can predict the weather over there.
Correct.
And the wind speeds can vary from anything to anything, and wind shear also takes place.
Right.
So one, with our experience, the navigator knows when to press the button, because actually what he does is, once he does all the approach checks and the DZ is coming for dropping, I keep giving a continuous running commentary. I say left, left, right, 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 left, left, steady, 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 approaching, approaching, approaching. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now I press the button.
Right.
Okay, and the moment I press the button, the load is kept on a conveyor belt. Conveyor belt. There are 4 conveyors. Load is kept on that, and the entire load goes out. Again, I want to say something in this about the ingenuity of Indian pilots. This aircraft is a Russian aircraft, and this is the methodology they follow. It's okay when you are on plane, you are dropping the load like this. It can, because you see at 600, even at 300 or 400 kilometers, so about 4 speed, so about 5 kilometers per minute, the spread of the load is very large. The load falls all over the place. And in Himalayas, in desert and in those areas, you don't have that much of space, plain space.
Right.
It's all hill area, valley, river, and load will be irretrievable. It's a waste. So the idea is to do concentrated drop in one place as much as possible,
Right.
taking into consideration the aircraft speed, forward motion of the load, and the wind direction, etc., etc. So how do you concentrate? Everything should be dropped as early as possible in one single place. It's in the limited time. That is the question.
Yes.
So जुगाड़ बन गया हम लोगों ने, हमारा एयरफोर्स ने. Even the Russians were not aware of that. And when they came and saw that, they were aghast. They said only you guys can do that. So what we do, when they say, when I press the button 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, at 3 or 2, the pilot opens full throttle,
Okay.
full speed. And when I say now, he pulls the stick back and the aircraft goes on its tail, juddering
Okay.
like this. So the load is assisted by the conveyor and gravity. So the gravity takes the entire load and the spread becomes very less.
Right.
And then, but he cannot keep the aircraft like this. Immediately he will push the stick forward and the aircraft comes down like this and then level out. So it's like this, like this, like this, and
Okay.
over the desert.
Yes.
And there are some deserts which are very, very dangerous. A place called Chalunka. Okay, so these are all very tricky things. And Chumtash, it is a bowl, and the desert is inside the bowl.
Oh.
There's only one place to come, and there's only one saddle to get out. And at that time, when you are inside the bowl and you are approaching or after dropping, in case you have any emergency, any engine failure, even God cannot save you. That was very clear. That was very clear. But the technique we have perfected so much. Okay, so we used to come out as though then it became something like playing football. It became a routine job for us thereafter.
That speaks volumes for Indian Air Force pilot skills.
डायलॉग विद वेटरन्स में आज की कड़ी को यहीं समाप्त करते हुए मैं आप सब से विदाई लूँगा और जाते जाते फिर एक आग्रह कि वीडियो को शेयर ज़रूर करें, क्योंकि शेयर करने से खुशियाँ बढ़ती हैं. चैनल को चलाने में और वीडियोस बनाने में समय और धन का खर्च होता है. आपके सहयोग के हम आभारी हैं. डायलॉग विद वेटरन्स में आपके कमेंट्स हमें ये बताते हैं कि आप वेटरन्स को सुनना और देखना बहुत पसंद कर रहे हैं. इस सहयोग के लिए आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. थैंक यू सो मच. जय हिंद.